Let's talk about J. Robert Oppenheimer. You've probably heard him called the American Prometheus. The guy from the myth who stole fire from the gods, gave it to us mortals, and then was punished for eternity for it. Well, that's Oppenheimer's life in a nutshell. It's a story that absolutely defines the 20th century, a paradox of incredible, mind-blowing triumph and just devastating tragedy.
And this really is the central question, isn't it? This is the paradox we're going to try and unpack today. Oppenheimer himself said his two great loves were physics and desert country. And yet, this is the very same man who, after seeing that first atomic flash, is forever tied to the chilling words, destroyer of worlds. So how on earth does that happen? To really get it, we're going to trace his whole story, that meteoric rise from this brilliant, kind of fragile intellectual to becoming the father of the atomic bomb. And then, his crushing, tragic fall from grace, a fall that was orchestrated by the very government he armed with the ultimate weapon. So let's start at the beginning. Who was this guy, really? Even before the bomb was a thought in anyone's mind, Oppenheimer was already a walking, talking bundle of contradictions, a total sphinx of science. And this slide, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got this humanist, a guy who loved poetry and ancient Hindu texts. And on the other, the architect of a weapon that could wipe out humanity. He was this psychologically delicate academic who, somehow, almost magically, became the incredibly decisive, masterful leader of the biggest scientific project in history. To really get inside his head, you gotta look at how he was brought up. His school had this motto, deed before creed. The whole idea is that what you do matters way more than what you just believe, and that principle drove him. It's what pushed him to build the bomb to stop fascism. And here's the irony, it's the exact same moral code that made him fight against the hydrogen bomb later on. But, and this is a really big but, beneath all that genius, there was this really dangerous instability. Get this, while he was at Cambridge, he was feeling like a total failure in the lab, and he actually left a poisoned apple for his tutor. I'm not kidding. He was almost expelled and could have been charged with attempted murder. It's a chilling early sign, a huge red flag of the kind of arrogance and awful judgment that would come back to absolutely haunt him. And yet, this is the same fragile academic who is about to go through this incredible transformation and become the leader of the most secret, most powerful project on the entire planet. If you looked at his resume for this job, it would be a disaster. He had no Nobel Prizes. He'd never run anything in his life, let alone a secret weapons lab. And his FBI file was thick with communist friends and associations, so why in the world did General Leslie Groves pick him? Well, Groves saw something nobody else did, what he called an overweening ambition. He bet that Oppenheimer's raw ambition would be enough to get the job done no matter what. And you know what? Groves' crazy bet totally paid off. See, Oppenheimer's real genius at Los Alamos wasn't just about physics. It was about leadership. He basically defied the military's strict rules about secrecy, and instead he created this open, collaborative campus where all the brilliant minds could talk and share ideas. He wasn't just a manager. As the physicist Freeman Dyson put it, he was like the great conductor conducting this big orchestra. They all felt so intensely grateful to him. And that orchestra he was conducting, well, it was building up to one terrifying, world-changing performance, the Trinity test. This was the moment all the theory, all the math, was about to become terrifyingly real. Okay, so picture this. It's 5:29 in the morning, July 16th, 1945. They push the button. Now, they were expecting a blast of maybe 5, maybe 10 kilotons. What they got was 21. That's more than double their most optimistic guess. A level of power that was it was beyond what even they had imagined. And while a lot of the other scientists were cheering, celebrating their success, Oppenheimer's mind went somewhere else entirely. He remembered a line from the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu scripture, and this is the quote that will haunt him and define him for the rest of his life. A moment of just terrible, crystal clear understanding. And the physical proof of what they'd done, it was just staggering. The 100-foot steel tower that the bomb sat on, gone, just vaporized. The sand underneath it was fused by the heat into a brand new substance, this eerie radioactive green glass that they named Trinidite. They hadn't just built a weapon, they had literally and permanently altered the face of the Earth. So, after the war, Oppenheimer is a national hero, right? The man who won the war. Well, that's where the story takes a really dark turn, because when he tried to control the monster he'd unleashed, especially by opposing the even bigger hydrogen bomb, he made some very powerful enemies. And that led directly to his tragic downfall in a brutal public security hearing. And let's be absolutely clear about this. This hearing was a total setup, a complete kangaroo court from the very beginning. The prosecution was handed Oppenheimer's entire FBI file, which included illegal wiretaps of his private conversations with his own lawyers. Meanwhile, Oppenheimer's own legal team was denied the security clearance to even see the evidence that was being used against their client. I mean, how is that possibly fair? So the whole case against him really came down to this one thing, the Chevrolet incident. Years before, a friend had kind of hinted that he should share secrets with the Soviets. Now, Oppenheimer shut that down immediately, said no way, but later, when security questioned him about it, he panicked and invented this crazy, complicated lie, a cock and bull story, as he called it, all to protect his friend. So in the hearing, the prosecutor just hammers him on this lie, again and again. Dr. Oppenheimer, why did you lie? Why did you invent this story? And Oppenheimer's response, it just sinks him completely. He finally just says, because I was an idiot. And with those 5 words, poof, his credibility was just gone. But the final nail in the coffin, the ultimate betrayal, came from his own colleagues. Edward Tuller, the guy who was desperately pushing to build the H-bomb, got up on the stand and delivered this masterclass in backstabbing. He said he felt U.S. interests should be in hands he understood better. It was a devastating blow. And that was it. His security clearance was revoked. So, just like that, Oppenheimer was a political outcast, a broken man. But the story isn't over, not by a long shot. The final act is all about a long, long overdue vindication, and it brings us right back to the ultimate paradox of his life. It took a long time to make things right. I mean, he got a symbolic award in 1963, which was nice, I guess, but it took until 2022. Think about that, almost 70 years, for the US government to finally formally say, you know what, we messed up, that decision was wrong. And when they finally cleared his name, they didn't mince words. The Department of Energy officially stated that the 1954 hearing was a flawed process that had violated its own rules. They basically called it what it was, a political purge, a hit job, not a legitimate security hearing. His name was finally, officially cleared. Which brings us to the final, profound irony of his entire life. The whole world knows J. Robert Oppenheimer for creating the atomic bomb, the one invention he came to deeply regret. But get this, maybe his most brilliant, groundbreaking piece of pure science was a paper he wrote back in 1939 that was the first to mathematically predict the existence of black holes. And it was almost completely ignored. The war, the bomb, it just consumed everything. So that's the question we're left with, isn't it? What is his real legacy? The destroyer of worlds or the forgotten prophet who saw the deepest secrets of the cosmos, only to have nobody listen?